Hi, today I'll be reviewing the 2024 Phantom line, and I have the 100P and the 100X 305. So these are two frames that were updated this year. Unfortunately, the racket that I was playing with previously, the 100G, was discontinued. So today will be like a review, and I'll eventually make a racket switch probably between one of these two rackets. Now I have a guest reviewer today. His name is Koby Murata, so I have him come up here. He's currently the Pacific University men's assistant coach, and he's visiting here. So thank you for coming over all the way from Oregon. He's actually my son, so he's visiting me. But he was kind enough to volunteer for this review. So Koby, what racket do you play with, and what string setup and tension are you currently using?
Right now I'm playing with the Prince Tour 98, and I use the 16 gauge Hyper G, and I string it at 48.
Okay, so on these rackets though, what I did is, I think it's always vital that the rackets that are reviewed, or even in my demo program, that I have it strung according to the specs of the player using it. It'll be to my specs though, so I'm not sure how Koby will like these rackets strung the way it is. The mains are Prince Lightning Pro 17 gauge, and the crosses are Prince Vortex 18, which is the polyester strings. So I'm not going to tell him the tension, but and I'll tell you what the specs are later in this review. So Koby and I are going to do some warm-ups, and then we're going to have a skills test and see how these rackets perform. All right, let's get into it. Koby and I started the skills test by doing a ground stroke challenge, and for this particular drill here, we're hitting deep cross court into that back area of the court. And for each of the skills tests, we played a game called Lucky 4 Ball, where we're accumulating 4 points, but whoever gets that fourth one into that box wins. And then after we finished one game, we played another one, we switched rackets, and so we got to hit both sides, hitting with both rackets in 4 challenges per skills test. For our second ground stroke skills test, we were working on angles and trying to get it no deeper than the service line, and it had to land in the alley. So you can see that we switched sides right there. I did have to use my backhand slice though, but the goal was to make it land in the alley and angle off the court. For our volley skill test, we started off with deep volleys. You can see that we switched off right there, and it's that deep corner that we're aiming at. Then we switched it out and we're working an angle volley, so we had to hit that ball hopper to get a point. And then of course we switched sides and we got to play with each racket twice. Finally, for our serves, we were working on accuracy and spin. So on the targets that were placed in the service box, we had to aim wide. On the deuce court, we're using a slice serve, and on the ad court, we're hitting a topspin serve. All right, so we just finished our skills test, and I have the results here, so I'll reveal that. But what I thought would be good is we'll go over each of the strokes and skills tests that we did do. So we'll start with Koby's comment. And so we started off with ground strokes, and that was the drill that we went for a deep cross-court shot. So overall, what did you think about the two rackets when you're trying to hit deep?
Trying to hit deep, I thought that the yellow one, so that's the 100X, I thought I could get a little bit more, there's a little bit more pop to it, a little bit more power. And yeah, the red one, the 100P, I thought it had a little bit of better accuracy.
And then we also did the angle shot drill. So how about when you got to like touch and trying to get that angle?
No, yeah, I would say the same thing. The red one, yeah, it was just a lot easier to I guess curve the ball.
Yeah, coincidentally, I felt the same too. When I was using the 100X, I felt like I didn't have to work as hard to get the ball deep. But the funny thing is when we switched back and forth, we tried to warm up a little bit just to kind of get into the groove of the racket itself. And when I was using the 100P, whenever I started to use that, it launched a little bit. But then once I got the feel of it, yeah, I felt a little bit more connected to that racket in general. On the depth, the depth was easier though with the 100X. And then when we got into feel, I liked the 100P better. So here's the results. So on the ground strokes, when we went for depth, Sorry, I won that one. When we went to the angle touch drill, then Koby won that 3-1, and I won the first one 3-1. All right, so then we did some volleys, and we did some deep volleys, and we did some angle stuff. So how about if you just maybe comment on those two areas?
Yeah, I mean, I thought they were pretty similar, pretty comparable. I feel like whenever I test rackets, though, the volleys don't differ a whole lot. I feel like I can adapt pretty well to the volleys, but I think overall, if we were to do reaction volleys, I'd probably prefer the 100X. Yeah, the 100X. Just because I think it's a little thicker beam. I think it'd be more sturdy, a little bit stiffer. So I think if I had to choose, I'd probably choose the 100X.
Okay, and like the ground strokes, I felt that when we were going for depth, the 100X was easier because of the fact that, you know, I didn't have to work as hard. But on the angle volleys, I definitely felt like a little bit more, like as if the racket the ball stayed on the racket a little bit longer. And by the way, the string tension on the rackets, I didn't tell Koby earlier. What do you think it was?
Definitely less than 50, and probably like maybe anywhere from 46 to 48, maybe.
Okay. Well, the mains was 42.
Oh, okay.
And the crosses is 40. So anyway, that's my normal spec. So yeah, I wanted to make sure it was comfortable for my arm and just so that I could feel it. So on the skills test, when we did the deep volley drill, I won that one 3-1. But when we got into the angle touch volleys, which I thought I would win because that really is my game, Koby won 4-0. So he dominated in that area with those with both rackets. All right, so then we did serves, and what we did is I didn't do flat serves because I was trying to protect my arms. So we just worked on spin. We went wide slice on the deuce court and a wide topspin serve to the ad court. So how was it for you on the serves?
I think it's just the same reoccurring theme. I think with the 100P, the red one, yeah, I felt like I could angle it a bit better, maybe get a little bit more spin on it. But yeah, I think if we were to do flat serves, I think I'd probably hit a little bit harder with the 100X.
Yeah, it makes sense because yeah, I felt the same too. If we did do flat serves, I would probably pick the 100X because of the fact that it didn't like bend as much or something. Yeah, but when I went for the spin with the 100P, I just felt like I felt more confident that I could take a big cut at the ball, big swing, and that the ball wouldn't fly out. So on the serves, it was a tie. So it was 2-2. So here's something interesting. What I did is I tracked all the wins of the two rackets, and it was dead even. So whenever Koby or I won, it was with the 100P compared to the 100X, it was 10-10. So it was a split decision on the racket. So yeah, it goes to show these two rackets actually perform really closely together, and I'll reveal the specs later on in this video. But the overall result of this whole entire challenge, Koby won 11-9. So congratulations. Good job. So again, I want to thank Koby for helping me with this playtest. It was fun and to do it with someone else. And I hope to do more reviews. It might be just me next time, unless my other son comes to visit me, but we'll see. All right, so let's take a look at some racket specs. And I have the Phantom 100X here and the Phantom 100P here. This is the weight 305 and 310. The string setup, as I mentioned, was a hybrid with Prince Lightning Pro 17 and the Vortex 18 polyester in the crosses, strung at 4240. And again, I strung it at that tension because that's what I was comfortable with, and I wanted to make sure I could get a good feel of the rackets with that tension. So here we have the weight. Now for each of the columns, I have a set of black numbers and red numbers. So maybe what I should do is I'll just pull them all out here, and then that way you can see them. But let's just take a look at each of the columns and the black numbers going across first, because what this represents is the measurements that I took. But because the reason why there's a range here from 305 to 311, of course, not every racket is exactly the same. So I pulled 3 rackets and I took a weight measurement, and it ranged from 305 to 311. It's supposed to be 305, but that's a pretty good range actually, with only 6 grams of difference. And again, the stiffness here with the 3 rackets, it ranged from 62 to 63, so that's good. And the swing weight only varied about 8 units. So I think within each of these specs, if it can stay within 8 grams here, usually this will stay within about 4 units, I would say. And then the swing weight, if you can stay within 8. So Prince is very good in quality control. So I did want to point that out. So I have that in both columns, both rackets here. So again, this one, even though it's 310, it kind of ranged from 307 to 310, but that's only a 3 gram difference there. The stiffness was identical to the 100X, and then the swing weight was very close too. So this was here. Now the red numbers on each of these columns is what's listed in Tennis Warehouse. So I did want to point out that their specs is based on a strung racket. And I'm not sure what gauge or what type of string they're using in those measurements. But I find that their measurements are about 15 grams heavier than what the unstrung racket is, and 15 grams is about a half an ounce. So I just wanted to point that out because that's what they have listed here. In terms of the stiffness, it is lower because when the racket is strung, it does come out with a lower value. I find it's usually just 2 units less, but in this case, if you look at this, it was about 3 to 4 units. And the reason why I know that is when I string a racket, I always measure the racket before and after, and it's pretty consistent at 2 units usually. In terms of swing weight, you're looking at 25 units of difference between the strung racket and the unstrung here. So again, I just wanted to point that out so that you could see that the specs are on Tennis Warehouse is based on a strung racket and what the difference is between that and an unstrung racket. In this last column, I have the string pattern and the beam width. And of course, that's not going to change whether it's strung or unstrung. But both of these rackets have a 16 by 18 string pattern. And you can see that the beam width, though, is different. So on the 100X, it's on the Prince rackets, they have CTS, which is constant taper beam. And that measurement, the 22, is at the tip of the head. Then the 20.5 is around the throat area, and the 18 is right above the grip in the shaft. So you can see that the 100X did have a thicker beam width if you're comparing the two. So that would explain why Koby and I in the playtest felt that the 100X did have more power, even though the stiffness was the same. The beam width is, I think, what made the difference in the way it felt in that way. And then, of course, the 100P being the thinner beam had a little bit more give to it, and I felt like it had better touch in the shots that we're hitting, especially with the angle volleys and the angle shots, and also the spin on the serve. All right, I wanted to point out a couple of frames that are similar to these Prince Phantoms in case you're shopping for a comfort type of racket, or maybe you're using one of these and just looking for something slightly different. So I have the Wilson Clash Pro 100 version 2, and you can see that the weight matches up really well. So does the stiffness. The swing weight is comparable. The only difference here would be the string pattern. You can see that it's a denser string pattern at 1620. The beam, though, is quite a bit thicker. It's a straight beam construction, no tapered beam like the Prince. So that is a difference there. And it does bend a little bit different in terms of the stiffness. So even though it's at 59, it has kind of a unique feel. The other racket is a Head Gravity 100. The weight comes in a little bit lower, though, at 312. Stiffness is comparable. Swing weight is comparable. And again, it has that denser string pattern at 1620. And it has a straight beam construction at 22 millimeters. So you can see that these two rackets are comparable in specs. The Main two things that stand out would be the string pattern and the beam width. But if you have the opportunity to demo these rackets side by side, that would be the best thing to do, because sometimes the specs doesn't tell the entire picture. So let's go back to the two Prince Phantom rackets, because earlier in this video I mentioned that I will be making a switch to one of these two. And I was playing with the Phantom 100G, which was discontinued in this update. So instead of me telling you which racket I'll be switching to between the Prince Phantom 100X and the Phantom 100P, I'd like to hear from you. So if you want to leave a comment and tell me which one you think I'll be switching to, I'll leave it up for a week, and then I'll see what comes in, and then eventually I'll post it on the video description. But yeah, I'd love to hear from you. All right, so in summary, I did want to talk a little bit about this family of 5 frames in the Phantom updated series. And in this series, there are 3 types. There's the X, the P, and the G. And although these letters don't stand for anything specifically, here's my twist on what I think they should stand for. So we have the X, which has 3 models, and we'll start off with the 290. And I'm going to say the X stands for next generation. The 290 is the lightest, and we'll call it the little brother of the 305. And what's really nice about this is that it has the same swing weight and stiffness as the 305. And all of these 100X frames have a more rounded aerodynamic construction, and also has a more powerful and crisper feel. And then next we have the middle child, the 305, which is the most popular of the 3. And we have the at 320 on the weight, and it has an 1820 string pattern, which offers great control for flatter hitters. Now if you'd like to learn more about these 2 frames, my friend Kent Okamura, he has a YouTube channel called Open Court, and it did a review on these 2 rackets, so I'll leave a link down below so you can check that out. Next we have the P, and I'm going to say that the P stands for player, but not any old player, the traditional player, because of its box beam construction. And you can see here it's the old school style, and it's excellent for feel and touch, and it is the thinnest of the Phantom rackets in their line. And finally we have the G. Remember the old Prince original Graphite, POG? That's what I'm going to say this stands for. This has the box beam construction like the P model, but check out the iconic crossbar stabilizer. If you need advice on which Prince racket would best suit your game, I'll be happy to consult with you. Just send me an email at amstringing@gmail.com. If you live in the state of Hawaii and would like to demo a Prince racket, I'll be happy to consult with you, figure out your best string setup, and then ship one out to you for your custom demo experience. Thanks for watching. Play with Prince, and let your strings play.